You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the show. It's great to have you here joining me this weekend for our Cabral House Calls. Can't wait to get started with the questions. Haven't even taken a peek yet at what we have in store, but I do know that we're going to be able to hopefully reach out, answer somewhere between 8 and 10 questions from the community today from people all over the world, just like you, suffering from some type of health, wellness, mental, emotional, physical abnormality that we can correct through whether it be lab testing, good nutrition overall, different types of food, or second opinions on where to look. So, excited to dive into these, to really get into them. And I hope that you begin, as you listen to all of these weekend host calls from previous weeks as well, is that there's a lot of people just like you out there. A lot of times when we're suffering, whether it be, again, mental, physical, emotional based, one of those things, we always think that we're all alone, that it's just us and that no one really understands what we're going through. And the nice thing is that with myself, with my team, most of the people that work, whether it's at my company, Cabral Research or Cabral Wellness or Equilibrium Nutrition, is that everyone's kind of gone through their own health-based scare or transformation. And it's enabled them to have the type of empathy that you really need to understand that people out there are suffering. And they really just need the right place to look. They're missing that map of how to even get started. And that's what we hope to provide each and every weekend here on the Cabral House Calls. Hopefully you're getting some benefit from them. And of course, we do appreciate you tuning in. So let's dive into this first question today that's coming in from Krista. It came in on March 5th, so we're starting today on March 5th questions. It is May 25th today, so we're just about 2 months or so behind, right around there. And we are going to get in this first question from Krista. I have 2 questions regarding EMF exposure. Do you think the EMF exposure from a Fitbit device is worth it to improve a teen's activity level? Any specific recommendations? How do I know if a sauna is safe regarding its EMF output? I read a few articles for those who have personally tested various saunas with widely different results. I'd like to know your advice on taking advantage of health benefits of infrared saunas, but I'm confused as to how to make sure the EMF levels are safe. Thank you as always. Okay, Krista, thank you for writing in. And this is an easy one to answer, but it will get more complicated with the more wearable devices we have. So I test everything. I have a tri-field EMF meter. That's what I recommend. And again, there's a lot of good EMF meters. Just go to stephencabral.com/podcast and type in EMF meter. I'm not going to do this the whole show, but I will do it for this first question, just because I want to see how it works too. So go to stephencabral.com/podcast. And I want to make sure, because I know that you're going to be able to find it. Type in EMF meter, and it should just take you to the podcast that I give my recommendations of the one I use. So the EMF meter is on 1021, the 2018 Healthy Shopping Guide, on episode 917 for the best EMF meter. And then I have a bunch of shows on EMFs and the hidden dangers about them. So really important to check those out. Now, let's get back to answering your question, though. So here's the thing. I love technology and I love gadgets, but I don't love the EMFs. They do damage our DNA and they are leaving us susceptible to a host of issues. I've done a podcast on this. I've done interviews on this, and I do invite you to simply, again, go to stephencabral.com/podcast, type in EMF meter, and you'll get those podcasts on that as well. So here's what I do. I still wear wired headphones. So when I'm using my phone, I don't put it to my head. I use a wired headset Air tubes are definitely the best ones for that. I use an EMF case. I'll be going over this next Friday on my Friday review, but I'm using a case called Safe Sleeve. I've already given you cases for iPads, so you can go to stephencabral.com/podcast and literally just type in iPad case, and I'm sure it will pop up as well. So that's what I use for my two daughters when they're using an iPad on an airplane or something like that, with those mini iPads. And in terms of wearables, so I like wearables where you get to dictate when the information is sent. So for example, I've already gone over the fitness ring called MyMotive, and I'm probably going to be going over and reviewing another one of the fitness-based rings in the future as well by Oura Ring. So what I do is I test the rings while you're wearing them, but also on some of the newer ones, it allows you to turn the Bluetooth off while you're wearing your ring, and then you can take your ring off and just sync it up at the end of the day if you'd like. So super easy. Or anytime you want to see your results, you just turn the Bluetooth on, and then your results go right over to the app, and then you're able to see your results. So that's a nice way to do it. I'm not sure that Fitbit allows you to do that, since I believe it's digital the whole time, because it's constantly monitoring you. So you'll have to look into that with Fitbit. I don't use a Fitbit. I simply don't want to wear the bracelet. I just wear a watch. I'm good with that, and I also don't want those EMFs. It's also why I don't wear an Apple Watch. So maybe in the future I will, but I don't right now. And for my daughters, when I was doing, when I did that post on Instagram and I did the podcast, I believe it was last Friday, I just used a straight pedometer. No EMFs there. So, you can check that out as well. Hopefully that answers your question. I think it answered. Oh, and then the sauna as well. The reason why people get different results in sauna is they're testing it in different places. So you need to use one EMF meter. Again, I recommend type in the try field, but you just type in EMF meter, you'll find it. And then it's going to vary widely depending on where you do in your sauna. So if you do it closer to the plug, you're going to have a higher EMFs. The further away from the plug you are, where it enters the sauna, the lower the EMFs. So try to sit on the side away from the plug. One of the ones that I use that I've recommended before by Therasage, again, just go to stephencabral.com/podcast, type in sauna, and you'll find my episodes on sauna. You'll also find recommendations, the one that I recommended by Therasage. And I provide the link right there to the one that I have. And it's it's just less expensive than most of them, and you don't even have to put your head in it. So that one, they encase the battery pack in an EMF blocker themselves. So it's a little bit more expensive, but then it blocks the EMFs while you're sitting in it. So that's kind of nice too. So there's always a way around it, and Krista, hopefully that answers your question. All right, Chris is up next. Can you point me in the right direction in terms of chronic MAC infection of the lungs? My mother was diagnosed with this many years ago, but it's escalated quite a bit in the past few months. She constantly has a dry cough, fatigue, lack of appetite, etc. Her escalated symptoms began a few months after her moving into a different house. I suspect something about the new house may be a factor. Thank you, Chris. So one thing right away, Chris, when you're talking about new house and you're talking about the lungs, I can't recommend enough looking into mold-based toxicity with any lung issue anyway in general, but definitely when you move into a new house. So you can run a mold test. You can go to equilibriumnutrition.com and just type in mold, and you'll just find the mold test right there. So it's a good one. But MAC infection, for those that don't know, and I'm sure most people don't, it stands for Mycobacterium Avium complex. And it's bacteria that invade the lungs, that grow in the lungs, and can cause immune suppression or immune-based issues. So a lot of people are medicated on this, so it's hard for me to give you my exact recommendations, probably because your mom's on medication. But what I would do with any type of Mycobacterium-based infection, I'm doing something like the Candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol, but I'm also using the citricidal drops, and I'm also using the GI Balance product. So I'm doing very powerful, very high dose levels of citricidal, which is grapefruit seed extract. I'm doing higher levels of oregano, thyme, and other things that kill this mycobacteria. But then I'm also doing the mold-based protocol after that, especially with lung-based conditions. Again, I can't make this recommendation to you because I don't know the medications your mom's on. I don't know where she's at in terms of like immunosuppressant-based drugs. So that's a place to get started for sure. And again, you can work locally with a good functional medicine doctor. naturopathic doctor, and they would be able to help you with this as well. So thank you for writing in, and we do hope that your mom makes as quick a recovery as she can, but for sure, there is hope. Beth's up next. Hello, Dr. Cabral. Love your podcast. I've learned so much from you, and I continue to learn daily the more I listen. I hope you can help point me in the right direction with this, but I've been dealing with clogged ears for the last several months. A bit of a backstory. 2018, I decided to take very strong antibiotics. I had bacterial overgrowth. I really got sick prior to this. During this time, I took 10-day antibiotics. I got sick with what seemed to be bronchitis. While sick, I took a flight for vacation, and my ears refused to pop. I've been sick multiple times since then. Steroids, IV fluids, antibiotics. I know that taking antibiotics was a horrible idea, no matter how desperate, but because it destroyed all the good bacteria I had in my gut, I'm completely susceptible to everything. I went to the ear, nose, and throat. I've been told my hearing was perfect. My ears were clear. I still can't pop them. Is there anything inflammatory? Right side of my head starts to hurt. On top of that, I have ongoing postnasal drip. All right. I'm going to stop there. Again, anybody who wants to read the full questions can simply go to stephencabral.com/1205 for today's show. All right. And happy, that you wrote in. It says it worsens with items like sugar. There's no doubt in my mind that because of antibiotics, it killed a lot of the good bacteria, killed bad bacteria, but it killed a lot of good bacteria. It allowed Candida to flourish in your ear, nose, and throat, as well as your digestive tract, and it probably allowed bacterial overgrowth as well. How can you prove this to yourself? You don't have to prove it to me, but how can you prove it to yourself and maybe the rest of your family or whoever needs to know? An organic acids test and a stool test. Easy. I mean, again, it's like a morning urine sample. That's all it takes to complete an organic acids test. You literally wake up in the morning on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. You urinate into a cup. You close the cup and you put it back in a pre-made mailer and send it to the lab. That's it. That's all it takes. The stool test, it's a 3-day stool collection. So when you have a bowel movement, you take a small sample of it, you put it in a tube, you do that for 3 days total, you ship it back to the lab. These are easy tests to complete at home. That's why we offer this to people, because it's easy, but it's definitive. And it tells you if you have yeast overgrowth, and it tells you if you have bacterial overgrowth. This will do that. It sounds like you have E. coli overgrowth. It sounds like you may have C. diff overgrowth, and it certainly sounds like you have Candida overgrowth. We need to reduce those. That will help with the inflammation. We'll get you on an anti-inflammatory nutrition plan. We'll give you the sensitive gut guide that we use, and that will help you get well. So that's my highest recommendation. It's exactly what I would do for someone in my own family. It really is. That's exactly what I would do, and I wouldn't do anything besides that. That's what I would do. And then I would, if you were positive, I would then do the Candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol, and I would work the steps, and I would seal up the gut wall, and then you'll become human again. And so that's what it's really all about. That's what we want to help people with. All right, Tony's up next. Hi, Dr. Cabral. Love your de-stress protocol and all your work. However, what seems to be missing is a focus on trauma. What are your thoughts on those whose health have plateaued because of childhood trauma that has conditioned such strong subconscious beliefs that even the Monday motivations aren't resonating with these conditional core beliefs? There are modalities like EMDR, but I'm curious on your take on what you see in your practice as I put Cabral and his team as the gospel of truth on health, wellness, and spirituality. Keep up the fantastic content. Tony, love these questions, and I'm happy to answer them for sure. I have two. So de-stress protocol is 2 parts. For those people who haven't read about it, I debuted it in the Rain Barrel Effect. It's how I practice. It's an integrative health, natural health medical practice. I don't know how the best way to say that, but I take the best of all worlds. There's no one world that's best. So like Tony's talking about EMDR, I'll use EMDR. I will use neurolinguistic programming. I will use emotional freedom technique. Tony actually talked about these in the Rain Barrel Effect. So that's the thing, is that I do believe in trauma. It's part of my emotion-based module. So de-stressed, the first E is for exercise. The second E is for emotions. And that includes trauma, without a doubt. I work with people all the time with PTSD, coming back from wars. They're firefighters that have run into burning buildings. They've seen horrible things. And so, yes, without a doubt. And Tony, I'm all for all of them. I'm for all of them. I'm for, first and foremost, make sure that there's no nutritional deficiencies which lead to chemical imbalances in the body. If you can't produce serotonin because you're low on zinc or B6, that's a problem, right? I mean, like, without a doubt, that's a problem. If you can't produce dopamine because you're low on tyrosine or other factors, that's a problem. Or if you have Clostridia-based bacteria and that's allowing to a proliferation of certain base neurotransmitters, not others, that's a problem. If you have leaky gut, intestinal permeability, inflammation in the gut, microscopic bleeding in the intestines, any of these issues that doesn't allow you to produce and manufacture serotonin because it's in the gut, then that's an issue as well for trauma. So even things like EMDR and NLP aren't going to work as well until you get the nutrition and the body balanced. So work on the physiology, and then let's work on the psychology as well with emotional freedom technique. Again, there's so many great ones: cognitive behavioral therapy, EMDR, Psych K. There's so many. And which one is best? Well, the one that speaks to you, the one that you'll stick with, the one that you believe is the right one to have in your life. And so, Tony, I'm glad that you brought it up. I'm a huge believer in it, and I hope that I do talk about it. Maybe I don't talk about trauma as much, but I talk about childhood conditioning all the time. And so that's a part of it. All right. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate you. Annette's up next. Hi, Dr. Cabral. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with the world. I would like to know some information regarding hair loss. I'm considering ordering some of your tests, but I don't know which one would be appropriate for me. I'm going to be 45 years old in the last few years. I've lost maybe half of my hair. The loss continues. And every time that is my hair wash day, I get just so scared and anxious thinking, how much hair will I lose again today? I do not take birth control. I'm vegetarian, but do not eat eggs. My TSH is 1.42. My C-reactive protein level is 0.8. My total protein is 7.1. I would love to get some guidance and advice as to what I should be doing and what might be causing my hair loss. Am I premenopausal? It's to a point that I cannot leave my hair loose. Thank you very much for your help and time, Annette. Annette, I'm happy to help. I've done a hair loss podcast on what causes that. And in women, it's different than men typically. So in men, we have higher androgens such as testosterone being converted to dihydrotestosterone, and it's leading to male pattern balding. There's also the lack of zinc or copper in the diet that can lead to more graying of the hair and hair loss. There's also a lack of protein in the diet. A lot of people, whether they know it or not, are severely lacking in protein. If they add up their protein for the day, it's not even, it's probably like 20 grams a day, maybe 30 grams maximum. And really what we're looking for overall tissue growth is about half the body weight. It can be less than that. It's 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight, so a little less than half your body weight. If Annette, you weigh 140 pounds, well, you look for somewhere around 50, 60 grams of protein a day at the minimum. It's not hard to get. It's only about 18 grams of protein at 3 meals per day. Pretty easy to do, for sure. Daily nutritional support shake contains 15 right there. By adding in some other greens and other products and even some berries, you can get an extra couple grams. Easy. So you're already met it at breakfast. With lunch, you can use some hemp hearts. Just 3 tablespoons will meet it. And then at dinner, you could have a piece of fish or something like that. You could do, if you're if you're vegan, you could do dal. You could do chickpeas. You could do hummus. You could do black bean soup. So there's a lot you can do, but you just have to be aware of it and cognizant of it. High stress, high levels of norepinephrine, high levels of cortisol. You're not going to see that on blood work. You've only run blood work. So again, I invite you to run at least the thyroid adrenal hormone. And then next up would be the hair tissue mineral analysis. Those are the 2 most important for you. Of course, I always recommend the big 5. But if I had to pick 2, that's what they would be. All right. And again, there are other reasons as well. Low thyroid, excessive estrogen production, and then higher levels of testosterone in women as well. All right. Annette, thank you for writing in. Joanna is up next. Hi, Dr. Cabral. I have 2 questions. What would you suggest for ovarian cysts and what can cause this? I've been having upper left abdominal bloating for a few months. I usually get if I'm a little bit stressed, and I think I have gastritis or bile reflux. I have candida bacterial overgrowth, high histamine issues. I'm currently doing the CBO protocol. What do you suggest I can do to heal this naturally? I want to avoid a endoscopy if I can. What are your thoughts on slippery elm and healing the gut and even treating gastritis? Thanks. I'm currently doing IHP and post regularly in the Facebook groups. Many thanks for all you do. Joanna from Australia. Joanna, thank you for writing in. What we do is we always try to figure out what may be some of the causes for the ovarian cysts. And what we want to look at is higher stress, higher levels of blood sugar, higher levels of androgen, such as the testosterone, anything that would cause PCOS, right? And what we do is we correct those. So the best thing I can tell you is that the thyroid adrenal hormone gives us all the data we need on that. And if there's high testosterone, we lower the testosterone. If there's high estrogen, we use estrogen balance. If there is high levels of cortisol, especially at night, we use adrenal soothe, magnesium, deep sleep protocol as needed. If you're doing the candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol, which is great, so you want to work on that in terms of inflammation. In terms of trying to work on the cysts that you already have, well, we recommend proteolytic enzymes, such as the ones like the fluorofilm, and you would use those 2 upon waking and 2 before bed. What else can I tell you? Slippery elm? Well, slippery elm's great, but it doesn't, in my opinion, and from my research, it doesn't compare to what we put in the healthy gut support. And that includes the L-glutamine, the zinc carnosine, the aloe vera. Check out that product. That is a all-in-one for basically gut rebuilding and leaky gut. So you're already going to be doing that as part of the candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol. I don't have a problem with slippery elm. So DGL and slippery elm are both great for gastritis. So is marshmallow. We're adding that as well in one of our new formulas coming up in about 4 months from now. You'll see that in September, October. So those are all great. They create what's called a mucus-based layer, and they cool and coat, right? So they're great. DGL, slippery elm, marshmallow. All great. So great questions. The truth is, figure out what the gastritis is from the inflammation, right? And it could be from poor digestion. It could be from weak stomach acid. Could be from improper food combining, eating too often, not letting the food digest fully. Could be from H. pylori. If you haven't done a stool test, I would do a stool test. And that will get you the answers you're looking for. Remember, I really believe we're in 2019. If you're listening to this in 2025, the answer's still going to be the same. We have the information. We have the technology to be able to ask the right questions, run the right tests, find the right answers, and then we have the protocols to fix those. So that's the great thing. Will the protocols be improved even more in 2025? I hope so, of course, right? That's the thing. But the nice thing is they work now. They could even work better in 2025, and I'm all about that. I really am. I am not a static practitioner. You're not going to see me when I'm 70 years old and I'm reading labs saying, back in 2019, what I did was use this. No, I'm like, hey, if I find something 30 plus or 30 years or so, and I'm like, hey, this works great. And then I'm like, all right, I'm going to use that. That's what it's all about. It's about evolving. But the truth is too, we've known about slippery elm for thousands of years because they've used it in Ayurveda. They've used it in other forms of Eastern medicine. Those things will never change. It's already been 6,000 years. I'm talking 30 years. I'm not talking 6,000, right? But what might be better is the delivery systems or different extracts. So that may be the only thing that changes. So really great question. I'm going to keep it at that for today. I appreciate everybody tuning in. We're going to answer more questions tomorrow, of course. I do hope that you tune back in. Appreciate your listens. Appreciate your shares. As always, if this was helpful, please do feel free to pass along to anyone else you believe it could serve. Enjoy your weekend. Before you go, I wanted to share a personal story with you. The real reason I began to get well finally is because I figured out what was wrong with me. And that might seem pretty obvious, but I went from doctor to doctor for over 2 years before discovering at-home functional medicine lab testing. These are the labs that enabled me to finally figure out what was wrong with my hormones, blood sugar, electrolytes, and gut health. And once I knew what was wrong, I could then follow a proven plan in order to rebalance my body from the inside out. This is why I believe so strongly in functional medicine lab testing and why I've made it my mission to share these labs with the world. Now at equa.life, you can order an at-home lab test or a lab bundle for you and your family and be able to complete it within the week. Plus, the EquaLife difference is that you're not left to try to read and figure out these labs on your own. We explain what your lab numbers mean, what they mean in the much bigger picture, and then how to go about rebalancing your body in order to heal. To see our full selection of lab tests or to set up a free lab selection call, To find out what labs may be best for you, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. And do remember, we ship these all over the world. To find out more and to set up your free lab selection call, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. That's EQUI.LIFE/labs.